Welcome back. We continue our conversation with a member of the organized labor. This time we're being joined by the president of the Trade Union Congress and also the president of Pangathan, Comrade Festus Osifo, in our Abuja studio. Comrade Osifo, thank you for coming on the program.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning to you, Jeffrey. Good morning, Kayode and Bukola.
All right, so...
And happy Workers' Day. Happy Workers' Day to you.
Happy Workers' Day to you as well.
The entire Nigerian workforce, yeah.
Absolutely. So you could see the lamentation across board, and some of the things that have been said was re-echoed by, Comrade Ekwe. I want to find out from you, for him, he's mentioned the fact that government is not living up to expectation. Is that the position you share as a TUC?
Yes, absolutely, because there is no one currently that lives in Nigeria today who does not feel the excruciating pains. I can almost guess that yourself as well, if you don't feel the pains, people all around you are feeling the economic hardship. So it's not been rosy for Nigerians. It's been difficult across board, from the public sector that cut across the federal to state and to local government, as well as the private sector. It's been relatively a difficult period, and yeah, this year's midday is just more or less about lamentation on the economic challenges that an average Nigerian worker, and indeed the entire Nigerian masses, are facing. Yeah.
Comrade Osifo, well, just an aside, the way the labor union, the TUC look very colorful. It doesn't look like things are hard, because the colors are brilliant. The one we saw on Ekwe and the one we're seeing on you doesn't suggest that there's hardship, but that's an aside. Let's go back to the issue that concerns your own industry. The Ipman depot chairman, before we go back to the issue of workers, they've threatened that what is going on with the supply logistics issue may be a child's play. If their monies are not paid, they are going to, cripple the system. Maybe you have some information about that and why their monies have not been paid and what can be done urgently.
Okay, thank you, Jeffrey. Before I come to the issue of money, you were talking about the coloration of our attire today. You know, today we are celebrating the Nigerian workers. So irrespective of the challenges that the economy is throwing at us, but we need to celebrate ourselves because we've worked so hard in the last 365 days. You know, in 365 days, we just have one day in 365 days to celebrate ourselves. So today is like the Christmas of the Nigerian workers. So this is and a local attire that is made here in Nigeria for us to also demonstrate that we can wear what is made in Nigeria. That is why today we are not putting on suits and ties. We are not putting on those clothes that are imported from different parts of the world, but instead we are putting on a locally made fabric from made by Nigerian workers. So it's a celebration of Nigerian workers, and we'll continue to look colorful 1st of May every year, irrespective of what the economy is throwing at us. But specifically to the challenges that we are currently facing in the oil and gas, most especially the distribution of PMS across the nook and cranny of the country, yes, it's something that is regrettable because a lot of man-hour have been lost by people sleeping in petrol stations trying to queue and to buy PMS with their own earned money. So it's something that is totally regrettable. And yes, we also followed up from the releases that came out from Ipman to the fact that NMDPROA it's owing them about 200 billion naira regarding bridging costs. So the challenges that has arose from that bridging cost is actually because of a passage of the Petroleum Industry Act. So the Petroleum Industry Act that brought about the deregulation also talked about the fact that when you deregulate, there is no longer bridging cost. But today is a case of arbitrage because you are expected to still sell at a quasi-regulated regime and a quasi-regulated price. So that is the challenge that they are currently facing. But we are also trying to interface with NMDPROA so that they could reconcile this cost with Ipman, because if it's a legitimate cost that has been accrued to IPMA members is a cost that they have earned, because these people go to banks to borrow money. They go to banks to take loans at a very ridiculous interest rate from what we see today in our country. So for you to owe them this amount of money, for us, is something that is not right, is something that is not good, because they are accumulating interest on such loans. So we would continuously push to ensure that there's a reconciliation from both parties, so that this amount will be paid to them for their business to continue.
You know, when you talk about the kinds of gifts that the workers expect from government, certainly not fuel queues and fuel scarcity. So obviously it's not the best way to celebrate workers in Nigeria. So wrong timing, definitely. But you talked about the Petroleum Industry Act and how it's meant to deregulate the sector. We're having this conversation with you because of your Pengassan background. So we're also going to lean on that experience and seek to get some clarification. So if it's now quasi-deregulated, does that on the one hand mean that the government is defaulting on its own law, the law that was passed by it, which said this sector should be deregulated entirely? Does that mean government is breaking the law? Because obviously there's some price control mechanism by extension, controlled subsidy, not removed subsidy. Does that imply that government is breaking the law itself?
Yes, Kayode, government exists to take care of the welfare of its citizens. It is true, when the PIA was passed and assented by the then President Muhammadu Buhari in August 2021, there was a provision in the PIA that talked about the full deregulation of the downstream sector of the oil and gas industry. So, but there was no implementation of that aspect until President until President Tinubu came to the saddle on May 29, 2023. And when they started that implementation of that section of the PIA by deregulating the downstream sector of the economy. So one of the things that also happened was that the Naira was also floated. For us, the Naira was devalued. So when the Naira was devalued, then it kept moving south. As the Naira was going south, from Trade Union Congress of Nigeria, we were a bit worried because we understood the implication, probably from the Pengassan angle. So we engaged some stakeholders in government, trying to make them understand the reason and the need for them to bring about some level of controls. Because, Kyle, you could see today the price of AGO that we popularly refer to diesel. You could see the price today, where we are today. If we have allowed what has happened in diesel to have happened to PMS, today PMS would have been sold for over 1,000 naira to no fault of Nigerians. If the managers of our monetary policies and our fiscal policies, if they could not bring in the necessary expertise to try and manage this system, you don't export that to Nigerians. So what we did was that we had a conversation with the managers of the sector, this from the Pengassan angle, and we sat down with them. We tried to explain to them that for us, the issue of PMS price should not escalate beyond where it was as at then. So we proposed to them that what can be done is that government can be giving them a special rate for exchanging the dollar to Naira. So, so what is currently happening today is that there is a special concession that is being given to those that are importing PMS regarding the exchange rate. So because that is fixed, that is why you could see the price of PMS where it is today. Because if we had allowed that to float with the Naira, today PMS would have been selling for over 1,200. But because of that intervention that we made, and they also saw reasons with us, they were able to manage it from the back end. So we could call it quasi-deregulation, we could call it controlled deregulation. For us, what is important is that Nigerians today are getting PMS around that same price. But I know that in some areas, because of the current scarcity, in some areas today, it is going above that regulated or quasi-regulated price. But we believe that when the normalcy returned, because we also read the statement that came out from NNPC, and we are also challenging NMDPRA, that beyond statement, beyond press releases, they should send their inspectors to the field. A lot of these inspectors are also members of Pengasan. They should send them to the field so that they will be able to first get the product, get marketers that are holding to sell the product. Then they should be able to remove the bottlenecks from the distribution chain. Now, when that is done, with proper
that's the expectation, Comrade.
Hello?
Pardon me if I may come in here. This concession that is given to those who are importing PMS, I wonder if it is the controlled subsidy or it supports the suspicion that government is still paying subsidy. And I ask this because Ipman is saying that government is owing it bridging claims. Recall that just in February, NATO also went on strike saying that the federal government is owing it bridging claims and only suspended that strike when the federal government began to pay the bridging claims. So all of these claims that we're witnessing, and this one in fact from Ipman, is it actually what is responsible for this round of fuel scarcity, and does it support the view that the federal government may still be paying subsidy?
Yes, Bukola, if you listen to me carefully, what I was trying to explain was depending. So today, the landing cost of PMS, when you take the landing cost of PMS vis-a-vis the current exchange rate, the landing cost of PMS should be something above 1,000 naira. So when you look at, there's what we call the plat prices. So if you take the plat price, you compare that with the, you convert that with the current exchange rate, and you impute the cost of transportation. So the landing cost today is supposed to be over 1,000 naira. But as I have said, the application of the exchange rate that is being used is not the same exchange rate that you could get today in NAFEM or NAFEX. It is a special exchange rate that is being used. So it is because of that special exchange rate that is being used that is making the price of PMS to be where it is today. So if you could say that there may be a subsidy on the exchange rate, anyhow it is, any semantics that we are using, but all Nigerians are interested in is to get PMS available at a reduced rate, because it could have been much more difficult if PMS was selling today for 1,000 to 1,300. Just imagine when it moved from sub 200 to where it is now, you see some of the challenges that came. Then, if it has gotten to about 1,200, it could have been worse. So, to the issue of NATO and to that of Ipman, yeah, what we have advocated is that those bridging claims that have been put forward, both parties must sit down, reconcile, and government institutions, because are represented by NMDPRA, must sit down with these people to reconcile and to pay them. So, is government paying subsidy? Depending on the interpretation. I've just been very transparent and plain with Nigerians to the best of my ability that as at today, the exchange rate that is being applied is not the same exchange rate that you find in the official window. So that could be what that is what is responsible for us to be getting PMS at the price is currently offered today. That is why PMS is not like a six-saw like what you have in AGO. You could recall that AGO at a time went to 1,700. It came down again to somewhere around 1,600. Now it's about 1,400. Before the Dangote refineries now said they want to bring the price further down. So what that means is that the price of AGO has been like a six-saw, but that of PMS has been relatively stable depending on the part of country that you live, just before this current fuel queue came on board.
Whether it's quasi-deregulation or literal deregulation, what Nigerians are interested in is to be sure that they have their basic necessities met. Now, one of the big questions on the minds of a couple of people will be what will Labour, sometimes we know that the TUC and the NLC, they don't agree on certain provisions depending on what they are proposing. But as an organized Labour, today is your day, and according to Mr. Ikwe and some of the things you've alluded to, government hasn't shown enough commitment based on the agreement you had in 2023. What is the next line of action? One of the things you're asking for is wage increase, which we have not seen so much action coming across board. What will organized Labour do going forward from today?
Yes, you know, on the 31st day of January, there was the institution of the tripartite committee constituting the organized labor, both the federal, state government, as well as the private sector, NECA, SMEDAM, and all. So we have been sitting together to try and negotiate a new minimum wage. But just like Comrade Ekwe said a while ago, that particular new minimum wage, the process has been very slow. First of all, government did not set up that tripartite committee on time. That committee was not, our push was that the committee should have been set up as early as October, November, knowing that the minimum wage that was passed into law in 2019 was going to expire April 2024. But that was not done, so there was a time lag. But since January 31st, 2024, we have been having some level of engagement that has led to some meetings held, and there was also a public section that was held across the 6 geopolitical zones, where we collected views from Nigerians, where we collected views from trade unions, we collected views from private sectors, government, and all that. So we have also had a meeting where all these have been consolidated, where presentations were made by the subcommittee chairs, and they've been consolidated. But since our last meeting, I think this was somewhere around March, we have not had another meeting again because we had a timetable. So by now, we should have been very close in sending our recommendation to Mr. President for onward transmission to the National Assembly. But as we speak today, we have not met for upward of 3 weeks. And we said, no, this is not good enough. Because as of today, we ought to have been very close to sending that communication to the President. So for us, yes, while we appreciate the gestures that have been done, Edo State government 2 days ago announced that the minimum wage is going to be moved from 35,000 naira they were paying earlier, of about 45,000 or thereabout that they were paying earlier, to about 70,000 naira. Yes, it's quite welcome. But there was also a caveat that when the new minimum wage come into play, that they are also going to implement speedily. That is quite good. But we heard what Lagos State also said. Today, we saw what the federal government is also trying to do. These are all pockets of initiatives. As they are doing that in public sector, also in private sector, like in Pengasan, we have been engaging. We operate in over 150 companies in Nigeria. Right. So we have been engaging those people across those lines. We've been having increments here and there. But we want something that is a bit much more structured, mostly for the private sectors that is not quite paying well, as well as the government establishment, both state, federal, and local government. So that is why our advocacy is that we should push to ensure that the new minimum wage come into being. So our first thinking is that moving from today, we must do everything possible to ensure that that committee meets and we conclude the work on new minimum wage. Because these have overriding effect on the economy. It has a way of reflecting the economy.
Just to follow up on that quickly.
It's going to increase the purchasing power of an average Nigerian, and also the retailers are going to have more patronage when the disposable income is quite high.
Indeed. We shudder to also think what will happen to inflation, whether or not that will move. But quickly, Labour, you're wearing the same outfit, organized Labour, but some will wonder, is there more coordination beyond, the and co, as they say? So tell us, has there been an agreement between the TUC and NLC on what the minimum wage proposal will be? Some say, well, NLC saying 800 and something thousand, TUC saying 400 and something thousand naira. So there's been some back and forth and the rest. Have you both come to a middle ground, an agreement?
Yes. Kayode, there was something you said in the passing. It's very important I make some comment on this, because these are some of the comments that some of the state governors are making, that, when we increase the new minimum wage, that is going to increase inflation. But this is the argument that we have put out there, Kayode. If you look today, from May 2023 to today, you could see that the income or the revenue that is given to the state from the federation account, it has tripled. So this revenue that has tripled, that means the state governors, they have more money to construct roads, right? They have more money to build schools. They have more money to purchase other items. But the most critical part of the factor of production is labor. So it is just for you to take part of that money and pay your workers. So that will not increase inflation per se, because that money will be spent anyhow. If you don't give it to workers, you are going to spend it on other projects. So our argument is that giving workers what is due to them will not necessarily increase the inflation or bring about more inflationary pressure. That is one. Then on the other part of what you have said, yes, the TUC proposed initially about 447,000 naira. That was when dollar was somewhere around 1,700. Then NLC at the time also have their proposal, but we had a harmonization committee, so that came up with about 615,000 naira. So the position of the organized labor regarding the new minimum wage as of today is 615,000 naira. But remember, like as we have said, we are not stupid to have proposed this. There are a lot of factors that went into it, but this is negotiation. So when you are going to negotiation, you will not submit your rock bottom. When you are going to negotiation, you look at, what is fair, what is just, and what is reasonable. There is also a markup in it. Then that markup is where you can also play with, knowing that the fixed value or amount that you mention may not necessarily be what you are going to live with. So that is why today, what both NLC and TUC has proposed to government is about 615,000 naira. Then we are waiting for government to bring their counter offer in that tripartite committee. Then we enter into negotiations.
Comrade Osifo, it's going to be a delight to see those figures. If we see those figures in hundreds of thousands, whether it's 615, as you said, or something less, but if it's in hundreds of thousands, I'm sure the workers will love the union leaders for this. But thank you for coming on the program, Comrade Festus Osifo, the president of Pangasan and president of Trade Union Congress of Nigeria. Thank you so much, and happy Workers' Day yet again.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey. I wish to wish the entire Nigerian workers a happy Workers' Day. Go around and have a wonderful celebration.
Absolutely. We'll take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll get back to that particular issue that we've been discussing for a couple of days now, fuel scarcity, the challenges and the way forward. Join us again.